So you may remember back in January when I did my first Q&A and voice reveal. I admit, looking back on it, it was a complete utter mess. I wasn't kind of like in some way structurally prepared to like really knowing how to do like a voiceover at the time. But then sometimes, like take a modern day train for example, you are always gonna get teething problems and you're just gonna have to figure it out as you go along. And now past the 5th anniversary of my channel, when I first started this channel, is that I've decided to kind of go back to the Q&A for a second time. Well, Q&A 2.0. But this time round, it's kind of a case of rather than having all like a lot of questions, in this case I had to limit it down to just the first 10, like a first come first serve basis. So what I'm going to do now over this video is I'm going to try and answer your questions. Now if anybody I didn't get a chance to accept for this video, if you haven't submitted your question, or if you have but just missed the first 10, not to worry, then I can will try and get round to answering those when I can. So anyway, let's get right into it. So first question comes from UK Transport 232 and he asks, it may not be an appropriate Q&A question, but would you consider uploading some older videos, like for example in 2017 for the last of the D-Stock, or even some newer videos that didn't reach the point of being uploaded? Thanks. Well, the bad news is I don't have any footage of D-Stock, the last D-Stock on the District line from May 7th, 2017, just some photos, that's pretty much it. Also around that time, I wasn't kind of technically at the point of setting up my channel or starting transporting in general, so unfortunately I haven't got, the only thing I got available is probably some old photos and that's pretty much it. As for older videos that probably, or newer videos that never got to upload, well, I have to be honest with you, I mean, there were times where I was kind of tempting to upload some stuff that probably I did outside YouTube, whether it's like Instagram for example, but at this point in time I'm afraid I probably would not be able to get around to those, and the thing is though, even if they were, I probably will say to you the quality on them is not that great. Vlakar Lexi asks, what's your favourite class? Will you go to Wedding West Station? What my favourite class, I'm not sure what do you mean by EMU or DMU. It's hard to say really, and I gotta be very honest, I just can't really determine what is my favourite class. I know it sounds strange me saying that, but I'm afraid I've got to be honest with you. If I was to put it at the moment, it's probably the 387, and no, GWR has got nothing to do with that, it's just probably the train in general. Now, for your next question, will I go to Reading West? Well, actually I've been to Reading West this year already, that was back on January 15th, and I can probably tell you that because based on this clip here with the pair of 66s coming through via the up platform. So I have to be honest with you with Reading West Station, it's probably on the face of it looks like a good station to do some freight, but I have to be honest with you, if I have to put it in the category of the most scariest stations I've ever been to, that will definitely go on my list. Theo Lailey asks, what equipment do you use for filming? Hopefully if I'm before the 10th question, this could be a possible contender. Well, I'll give you a straight answer to that, Theo, is that at this present time I use iPhone 12 Pro for filming for rail and for plane content, whether it's this channel, What's Going to 7 or my second channel. The only exception to that, of course, is my train sim stuff. Arjan Sandhu asks, do you like National Rail or London Underground? And what is your favourite London Underground line? Now, if I do pronounce your name wrong, I do apologise. To give you an answer to the first one, I don't mind either National Rail or London Underground. And regarding the second question, my favourite Underground line, I will have to say this, it's just going to edge it just slightly, it would have to be obviously the Jubilee line. But the reason for that I put it down to is not just because, it's not just because it's the youngest Underground line, no, there's nothing to do with that. It's just more of, well, what's the one thing that kind of grabs your attention with it? The 1996 stock, its power, the acceleration of it. It mixes a bit of old, new, all in one go. What's not to like about it? I mean, for me, I can't see anything about it. The only probably inconvenience of the Jubilee line has to be, especially on the JLE, when it's screeching around these curves. I mean, that's so loud, in fact, you're going to need probably a headset to deal with the loud noise from it. And I'm not joking. I'm really serious about that. Expert with Lorenzo asks, do you like the brand new C2C Class 720? Well, based on my first look at these back on Friday, May 13th at Pit C and South and Central, I have to say they're actually very nice. The only thing, okay, I do accept that might give it a little bit of stick is of course none other than the pink doors. But the only thing is though, for me, I don't mind them. Now, I know some people will probably be thinking, well, why the pink doors? I will say that with the 357s right now, the livery, especially since it's been around since National Express had them, since they repainted it into the kind of the so-called National Express white and black livery, the fact is though, it does need a bit of an update. Now, would the pink doors work on 357s? I'm not too sure, but I think in some ways, if this is what C2C are going with the 720-6s, I think that's something that needs to be applied to all C2C fleet. Now, whether that happens, that's up to Trinitalia to decide that. Now, the 720-6s, I think in some ways, will they be a good capacity enhancement? I think yes, but I think perhaps C2C could order more maybe going forward, but that's up to them. Kian YT asks, what is your favourite EMU to ride on and why? Well, I have to be honest with you, it's a very difficult question for me to answer because I mean I only get a chance only a few times a year to actually ride on EMU. Now most of the time I'm spending most of my time riding on diesels, quite a lot, or biomodes, so it's a bit of a trick one to answer. Now the only indication I could give to you is probably for me, and I can't give you a straight answer on this, but right now I would have to say it would have to be the class 720 on Greater Anglia. Now some will say to me, well, why is that? Well, because the fact is I think the seating is actually not too bad. I think yes, maybe a couple of things with it can be improved, but I'm not saying I'm trying to be biased because it's just a new train to replace on Greater Anglia the 317s and 321s. No, that's nothing to do with that. It's just, you know, at least Greater Anglia are trying to do something. Just look, this is what we've been given, this is what we've kind of got our hands tied a bit, let's make do best what we can do. Now they could have gone for the iron board seating, which I know a lot of people would moan about, but in this situation you just gotta let the designers just do what they need to do. And the other thing also with the iron board situation elsewhere outright, I'm going to be honest here, is that it kind of does get a bit boring after a period of time. It will still go on with the trains we're getting now, with new ones coming in replacing older ones, but I will say it's something that we're just going to have to deal with. We've got to put up with it. We just have to, and I go back to my video from about Greater Anglia's new era. It's like Marmite, whether you like it, whether you hate it, the stuff we're getting now, unfortunately, is not going to be like the HST. It's something we're just going to have to make do, for now. And that's pretty much the end of the story. Jack and Ed asks, what is your least favourite TOC and why? Well, you probably would expect me to say, oh, it's someone like Southern or Go via Thameslink Railway, whether it's just Thameslink or Go via Thameslink Railway as a whole, but surprisingly that's not actually the case. The actual TOC is my least favourite right now has to be South Western Railway. Yes, because its management in some ways has been really bad in the last few years. Their idea to replace the suburban fleet with trains of right now, yes, they're trying to get them built by Alstom over in Derby and still can't get them to work, and at this rate we're going to be until sometime 2023 until the new 71s potentially starts. So they haven't really thought that through. They effectively think that by doing it they were let off by the government from time to time. they've been cutting back on routes. Clearly locals and commuters are getting frustrated about, well, why are you not adding certain routes back like before the pandemic? Now obviously scaling the routes back during the pandemic, that's understandable, but now since most of normality is mostly resumed, South Western Railway are still reluctant to add routes back. Part of the reason they say is because they want to improve reliability, but right now they're clearly not doing that well enough. Joseph James asks, what is the most scenic route you've been on? Well, the answer, based on my recent experience back on May 12th, it has to be this one. The Seaford branch line. Taking a trip early that morning to Seaford, on the face of it, probably on a Class 313, I have to say, it actually would be something I would have been a bit reluctant to do. But since the 313s are gradually being phased out very soon actually, in fact rumours go around could be out by the end of the year, I think it was about time I kind of took branch lines around East Coast Way, around the Seaford area, to get a feeling of what originality is like. And I think, I know some other routes I've done, like 387 to King's Lynn, to 755 from Sudbury to Marks Tay, 745 from Shenfield to Norwich. Yeah, they're good with more modern trains, but when you've got something that's old, going on a scenic route that's old, then it kind of gives more of the originality and feel to your journey than you probably would get with a newer train. Now, it doesn't mean that newer trains, I know some people say they're not going to be the same, but I think in some ways, the older the train is, it does give you that feel, that kind of like a retro kind of throwback feel is probably the way of putting it. So from the scenery, from Seaford itself, yes, you've got places like New Haven itself, you've got New Haven Harbour, you've got the single line branch down through Bishopstone, down to Seaford, and there's a lot about it that I think gets a bit underrated. Is it the most scenic route? Yeah, you could say maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I think you should kind of read more. It's not just about what's the most scenic stuff you can see, but at this time you have to say that based on what I went at the time, I think in some ways it'd be probably the most decent. It's not the most, is it the most best scenic route? Maybe not, but I think it's something that's right up there. TheBoyzClarke asks, what is your favourite station to get a good view for trains at high speed? By the way, your videos are incredible and congrats on 2k subscribers. Well, for me, right now, the answer would be very simple, and that is this place. Didcot Parkway on the Great Western Main Line, as well as also the junction for the Cherwell Valley Line, and also the junction for the Coswells Line heading towards Oxford. So the reason why Didcot Parkway I would say is good for trains at high speeds, in fact I think it not only just get underestimated as a station, but it's good for other things too. So yes, you've got 5 platforms, which looks like just like a normal interchange, but then you throw in Didcot Railway Centre in, and it keeps you occupied when you need to. The other thing also, you get a mixture of things. Stoppers are screwing on the fast lines. Not just you get half-hourly 387s, you get also half-hourly turbos going to and from Oxford or every 2 hours to Banbury, but also you get passing trains coming back onto the main line or diverging off the Great Western Main Line going at Didcot East Junction heading off towards Oxford area. And also, you get the passing trains too. So I think in some ways the station itself is really good. Yeah, there are some vantage points might be a little bit obscured, but the thing is though, to do a place like Didcot Parkway, you do need to go probably at least 2 to 3 goes at it to kind of really understand how to get the best views you can. Now, like any other station, there is always going to be some drawbacks, but you just have to work them out as you go. As for your second point, saying, by the way, your videos are incredible, right, thanks guys, and congrats on 2k subscribers. Yeah, thanks, and thanks for supporting the channel. I would say on your channel right now, your content, it actually is very good, and with your 50 subs you just hit just recently, I think you can build on that right now. So to you guys, keep the content up and keep it going. Final question in the Q&A comes from Jordan Trains UK, and he asks, how tough was it at the beginning compared to now? When I look back now, I would say it's probably more tougher now than it was back then, because it's not because that, you know, I've had to learn quite a lot since then. It's not just about that. I think it's now because of where my channel is. In some ways, the more subs you get, in some ways, the pressure on you sometimes does significantly increase, which means that from when I'm doing my spotting, is that I'm trying to kind of think more about the quality of the content and being as accurate as I dare go, rather than some might do is just pump out videos every single week if you can, and just to feel like, you know, you film it on the day and then you just try and upload it a couple of hours later. But in my case, it's kind of like I just want to kind of just film my stuff on the day, but instead take my time and go slow, or trying to get all the details that I need to get in, just to make sure the quality of the video is as high as possible. Now, are there going to be mistakes? Yeah, of course. You always will learn from that. When it was back in 2017, when I first started, I was a complete nobody, and I'd be straight up with that. Now, would I've said to myself I've got to 1,000 subs, for example, in 2017? I probably would have said no. But, you know, it did take quite a lot of convincing for me to get into just spotting itself. I do admit there were things, maybe looking back on it, maybe I could have started a lot sooner. There always be the case of the what ifs. But, you know, for me at the end of the day, what matters to me when I look now is it's more about the quality of the content, discipline being another key thing when I'm doing my filming, and also, you know, looking at how my content might help, you know, inspire others. You know, am I the perfect YouTuber? Of course not. I never will be. Am I one of the best spotters out there? I will say this straight away. The answer is no. I'm just another channel. That's all. And at the end of the day, you know, if some people say to me that, oh, Ross, you're the best spotter out there, I mean, okay, fair enough. But I don't take that for granted, because I know there's other channels out there that are far better than me, and not because they have more subs than me, it's because they know the rules of the game, they know how to do things spotting wise properly, they know all the basic inside and outs. For me, when I first started, you know, 5 years ago, I thought like staying behind the yellow line was one thing, and just turning up at the station and doing the filming is one thing. But as time has went by, it turns out doing spotting itself was actually far more difficult to do as time went on. Not just because the station I went to, it's just because it was just in general, because there was so many things to learn. From planning your spotting, planning your days out, trying to make sure you've got a plan A and plan B. And, you know, 5 years later, I do admit, it's just, you know, it might sound it's got a lot more easier, but actually it hasn't. It's actually going to get harder, because although I've been doing a lot of stuff mostly in the south, but soon gradually I am going to have to expand up north, and I know it's only going to get harder from here. So anyway guys, that will do for another Q&A, and thank you to those who submitted their questions. I totally appreciate that. Now, some answers I give you might not agree with, but that's fine. You know, everyone will have their views, and you know, I have to respect that, and I'll make sure and I always will do. So I'll leave it up to you. You know, what do you think some of the answers? Do you think some of the answers you might agree with what I've said? Some things you might not agree with? Maybe some things that maybe going forward that maybe I could improve on. So leave me your thoughts in the comments below, and you can leave a like, share, subscribe for more rail and plane content. And to everybody in the last 5 years who've subbed to my channel, thank you guys so much for your support. It has not gone unnoticed. I totally appreciate it. Without that, I probably would not have got this channel to where it is, and you know, I probably would have just bolted out the back door, like after a period of time doing spotting. Anyway guys, so that will do for another video. Thank you guys so much, and until the very next video, see you next time. Bye guys.